I was under NDA for obviously for Heroes of the Storm and StarCraft 2, and those both got revealed this year or in the last couple of months, so I feel very free now to speak on that. But I am on 3 additional video games, I could say that. One of them is a big motion capture that's going to be a performance capture video game that's going to be coming out. That's really exciting. And I also have a series regular role on an animation series, but I'm under NDA for that too, and it has a possible release date of 2018 or even 2019, but I'm in for a couple of seasons already, so very excited about that. And I will say that it's something that people might have heard about already, and it's very exciting. Other than that, I am coming out in a film with Jeffrey Tambor. I have a very small role in a Jeffrey Tambor film, and also currently I'm recurring on a show called Full Court Pranks on truTV, and it's a prank show, and it's been a lot of fun. Definitely Game of Thrones. I am, my spirit animal is Cersei, Queen Cersei, and so that's definitely something that I nerd out about. I have worked with lots of stars over the past decade of my career, and so like William Shatner and James Spader and Ming-Na, and you know, it's always been a delight to meet these people, but I don't get starstruck personally, and because they're, you know, people that I work with often, but I think that if I met anyone from Game of Thrones, I would nerd out about that. And my dog's name is actually Joffrey, but not named after King Joffrey. Joffrey is with a J in Game of Thrones, but my dog's name starts with a G, but there is a little bit of a homage to King Joffrey. I just like British names. I know that a fan favorite is Happy Halloween, which is, she didn't have a skin for that, but that's not necessarily my favorite, I would say. I like them all, but I really like the summer event skin, the Taeguki one. It's a white, clean, sort of very simple, beautiful skin that I personally like. I also like the Happy New Year one because she's wearing the traditional hanbok, and the new cruiser one's fun too, but not necessarily one of my favorites. Yeah. Interestingly enough, I didn't know that I was actually auditioning for Blizzard even. I didn't even know the company that I was actually auditioning for. And when I laid down the track and sent it in, I was sort of told that she was kind of like a Korean pop star, and in a different lifetime, had I been born in Korea, I'm half Korean, half Japanese, so had I been born in either of the countries, I probably would have wanted to pursue something in that vein, or also just, you know, be an actor in the respective countries. And so when I heard that she was a Korean pop star, I'm not much of a singer. I can hold a tune, but I'm not much of a singer. So I got really excited because I thought, oh, this is my opportunity to channel my inner diva. And I didn't know her name was D.Va. There was no name reference, there's no company reference, there's no game name reference, nothing. It was just sort of this like generic thing that they kind of gave me. And I think with a lot of voice actors, that's where the magic happens. You know, it's like instead of auditioning in a way that you feel like what they're looking for, I think the key is to really draw from your own inspiration and kind of do you and be yourself, and in that way you could really get far. And so with this, I wasn't really thinking about what they were looking for per se, but it was more what I would want to sound like if I were a Korean pop star. So I went in, laid that in the track, and then I ended up getting a call back, and just continue to really channel sort of the vibe of like the youthful, hip, sexy, smart Korean girl that embodies a pop star. And so it's funny because I also have sort of it's completely unofficial. This is not from Blizzard, but I've kind of given her an anthem, and it's "Hello Bitches" by CL. And so because I feel like she has sort of that badassery thing about her, but also is feminine and can really have fun. So those were some of my inspirations. Oh my gosh. Thanks for that question, because I love talking about the TV work that I've done too, because actually before the last 3 years of voiceover, I've been doing television for 8 years and still am in that world as well. But the way I got it, so kind of what I was just saying about going in for the audition, then going in for the callback, and still didn't know that it was for Blizzard, still didn't know anything, and they finally, it was about a 2-month process, I think. It was a while. Voiceover auditions, unlike television or film, sometimes takes a while. Television, you find out like sometimes the day of if you got the role, but for video games, oftentimes we'll send in a recording, and we won't hear for another like 2 months, sometimes 3 and up to 6 months. And so when you're getting a callback or when you book the role, it's like, what was that thing that I went out for again? And so, but I did have my sort of eye out on this one because it was so unique. It was the first time that I went out for a Korean pop star, and then subsequently after I went out for another thing. I think they saw my work in Overwatch, and that's sort of how my other project that I'm not allowed to talk about happened, but I think I'm allowed to say that I do play a pop star in something else now. That said, I know D.Va is not a pop star. She's a StarCraft star, so StarCraft star. So she's a gamer, and I think they didn't really want to reveal that because it everything is so under wraps, and so that's why I didn't know. But I eventually got the news that I got the role, and that's when they told me the title of the game. But at that point, it hadn't been released yet because I hadn't made it yet. Tracer had already been working on it. Cara Theobald had been working on it for about a year, I believe, before I had been brought on to the project. And so it existed, but I just didn't know about it because it wasn't released to the public. So that was sort of how that kind of came about. Grace and Frankie, that was a smaller role that I ended up taking because I usually take guest stars, and I have a series regular under my belt, and I'm recurring, and oftentimes when you're on a certain path of a trajectory in your career, taking the bit roles it's always tricky because you want an opportunity to play larger roles on a series, because once you're on a series in a certain capacity, it's really hard to be brought back, because if you're already playing Jane Doe in this capacity, you can't play Jane Roe in another capacity on the same show. So, but I went out for it because I've read for the casting director many times throughout the last 10 years, and I like her. And when I got the role, I knew that my scene was going to be with Miss Jane Fonda, the Jane Fonda, and so I just thought to myself, I don't want to pass up an opportunity to work with such a legend. And so I took the role, and it was a lot of fun, and she is such a professional and is really beautiful in real life, and it was a really, really fun experience. I also want to say that it was the first time that I worked with a female director, and which I think is really sad that I've been in showbiz for 11 years, and it was my first time working with a female director. She was a British lady, and was one of the most skilled and nuanced, professional, and just talented directors I had ever worked with. Even doing just a couple of scenes with her, I was able to see just how sensitive to detail she was, and it really inspired me to continue to want to take projects that have female leadership and that involve hopefully a female director. I was actually doing impersonations of people from when I was about 2 or 3 years old. So like my parents would bring in a friend, and then after the friend left, I would be acting like my parents' friend the whole week and embodying them. And so I think it was sort of something that I had been sort of given the heart for, and but I wasn't necessarily encouraged to pursue it. I was in dance and whatnot, and I was on an airplane when I was 5 years old, headed to Japan to my mom's side of the family, and an agent was staring at me for like half the trip, and I remember this like adult staring at me throughout the entire trip. But as a 5-year-old, you just think that's what adults do. Like, you don't really, like, you know, I wasn't I guess keen enough to ask my mom, why is this adult staring at me? I didn't find it creepy. Just, you know, you don't question what adults do when they do their thing. And so she was staring at me for hours. It's a very long flight, and she finally halfway through said, I don't mean to stare, but I was wondering if you've ever considered putting your daughter in showbiz. I'm an agent, and I'd like to represent her. I knew exactly what that meant. Even at 5 years old, I was like, oh my gosh, this is my chance. I'm gonna be a star. And my mom said, no, we don't have any plans to put her in showbiz. And I was devastated. My soul was crushed, and I didn't understand. I was so hurt because I didn't know if it was because she didn't believe in me or whatnot. And she said, no, it's just, you know, that's not the life that we want to set up for you. And so that opportunity had passed. Then later, when I was about 8 years old, there was a big casting call for a huge Toshiba TV commercial, and I went in for it, got booked for that right off the bat. My mom was like, you could take the job, but you just can't, we're not going to pursue this full time. Again, crushed. That said, they needed a girl that was slightly shorter than me, and so I got recast. And so it's funny because every time I found myself having an opportunity, somehow it would end up getting derailed, and I just thought, oh, this isn't for me. But I continued to pursue performing in different capacities. I played the clarinet growing up, and I was a cheerleader, and I was doing gymnastics and dance and everything but acting, actually, ironically. Then I started taking some acting classes in college and realized I really, really want to do this. But somewhere along the line, people in my family were saying, well, you want to be on television, so why don't you be a news anchor? Because there were so many Asian news anchors at that point. Connie Chung was already a big star on TV, and I decided that I was just going to sort of defer to that and go for it. And so I worked at Fox, actually, in the capacity of going towards becoming a news anchor and doing press and being a journalist. And I was getting up at 3 in the morning to do the morning show, and not as an anchor, but shadowing an anchor, and realizing I wasn't happy. And so before I had graduated, I just decided to take a leap of faith and realize that it's not the safe path, but I just thought, you know what, I have to go for it. So right out of college, got into an acting class out in Hollywood, and found a manager, submitted to like over 100 managers, and about 12 came back saying that they wanted to represent me. I had prayed over it and just kind of followed my heart towards who I thought was the right person for me, and thus began my career in showbiz. Long story, I know. And it's not actually just that, especially when you're starting off in your career. It's more like, I'm going to be very blunt here, like masseuse, nail technician, housekeeper. Those are sort of more of the entry-level acting jobs, and then you go into lawyer and these sort of more considered like less blue-collar jobs, so to speak. And it's interesting that it's so tiered like that. and also so stereotypical. But interestingly enough, I was coming in as a 20-something-year-old but playing 14. And so I didn't actually have to deal with, in the beginning at least, playing the nail technician, because there's no such thing as a 14-year-old nail technician and whatnot. But what I had done was I set out to be very picky, actually, for lack of a better word, about the work that I was going to do. So as I grew older, of course, there were opportunities to play very one-dimensional, sexy people. You know, I hate to say sexy, like objectified women, because oftentimes Asian women are objectified on a greater level, and I just I never took those roles, and it meant, and I just passed up on a role that was like that last year on a huge network show. And it's one of those things where you make the sacrifice to make decisions to try to, not just for my own career, but to send a message to writers saying, you know, not all Asian American women are on board with the stereotype, and because of that, I feel like I've been fortunate to be able to have roles that I feel like I can say I'm proud of. And so that's sort of how I have tried my best to curate my career, and that's what I kind of plan to do going forward.